Next up, now that we got through the paddles, I wanted to talk about an article that came out this week. I thought this was just an interesting article, and I actually agree with just about everything in the article. There's maybe a couple things that I think are overstated, which I'll get to at the end, but I actually talked, it's funny, the day I released my video about where did Chasing 5-0 go, I actually talked about this. And also, for those of you who watched that video, thanks for all the kind words. I said this on Instagram, but I think I needed to vent a little more than I maybe realized, and it felt good just to talk about that. But one of the things I talked about, which was a side note to the Chasing 5-0 stuff, was just about like paddle reviews, where this year I have been slower, and late last year, slower to make content than I would prefer, because I was just spending so much time trying to like perfect a script, or like, oh, I need to put 20 hours on this, and then I need to compare it to all these paddles, and it was just kind of like stressing me out. Grit testing.
That's taking up
way too much time.
80% of the time.
Yeah, I should just be smart like John and buy a ball cannon. I'd be done by now if I did that. But John is older and wiser than me, so he understands.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I talked about in there too is, there's always these like criticisms of reviewers, like, oh, they're all shills, they're all sellouts. Oh, it's this commission's higher than this one, and this is why they always talk about this. Like, oh, Honolulu always jumps ahead in line because they have a higher commission. And something I haven't talked about a lot, because I think it always felt to me like I'm holier than everyone, is like, my commissions are capped.
Yep.
It's all capped at 15%. There's not a brand that gives me more than that. Previously, it was capped at 20%, and then I was like, I think it should probably just be capped at 15. So I capped it at 15. We'll come back to that, because I feel like I need to give the whole premise of this article. I feel like I skipped ahead a little bit there.
For sure.
But anyways, those of you who watched the Chasing 5-0 video, thanks for the kind words. And then the reason I brought that up is because I put that up, and then later that evening found this article. So it's just funny timing that all of this came out. But anyways, so the premise of this article is basically just talking about, hey, look, there is, and it was from Reload Pickleball, for those of you who remember the company that did the reloadable face sheets to swap your grit. They wrote the article. So, and I'll leave it linked down below if you want to read it. But basically the premise was just, hey, look, reviewers don't get paid to do a review. They're not being told like, hey, here's X amount of dollars, now go make me a good review. How all reviews work, to my knowledge, maybe it's different and I'm unaware, but for the most part, the history of reviews in pickleball, it has been, hey, reviewer, you get a discount code, and if your audience uses the discount code, then you get a commission or a percentage of the sale for reviewing that paddle if they use your code. Otherwise, no one uses your code.
And that is not unique to pickleball.
No, yeah.
This is common in other industries like tech. We've got MKBHD, the biggest reviewer in tech, who does phones and stuff. He's on the same, well, actually,
phones, I don't think
there's commission for phones, but for other products there are. And then, Rick Shields in golf, he is under the exact same format of how we do things.
Totally.
Gets a product, reviews it. He doesn't get paid. There is commission.
Yep. So if you buy, you get a commission. If you don't, then no money made.
Yep.
But basically the other premise of the article was like, hey, look, reviewers, while there is this like, hey, we're unbiased, there is a variance in the commission percentages. So one company may opt to pay 10%. Company B may opt for 15%. Company C could offer 30%, right? So it's like, okay, is it truly unbiased if one company offers 10% and another offers 30%? Because that difference on, let's say, a $200 paddle starts to add up and be a pretty significant difference. So basically the article was exploring like, hey, look, yeah, you're not getting paid. And you might say like, hey, the commission doesn't sway anything, but that gap is pretty big and no one talks about that gap being a thing.
Yep.
Right? So it's like, if you disclose that, how would the audience feel?
Which that is a completely valid statement,
100%.
Right? Like that's completely valid. I completely understand that. There's definitely, some amount of incentive towards a brand that offers more, and we can't control what anyone else does, right? Whether they take more percentage from one brand or another. But like Christopher said, we cap it.
Yeah. And this was something I realized, I don't want to say early on, but a couple years ago. So Honolulu, when I learned about their commission percentage, I emailed them and I said, hey, look, I'm not comfortable with this commission percentage. Like I would like you to lower it. And then they just ended up donating my commissions to a charity to bring it down. And so that's how mine worked with them. And then it was like, I could just see more. I saw companies like, as time has gone on, like some companies will go a little higher. And it's clear that it feels like it's not saying like, hey, look, please do this because we're giving you a higher percentage. But it feels that way a little bit like, hey, we can stand out a little bit more if we offer this. And so when I started seeing that, it just felt, I guess, uncomfortable to me in that, like, okay, I personally believe, knowing myself, I wouldn't let that sway things. But I also know the people listening to this, it's money. The world is greedy, and anytime money is involved, people are never going to believe your intention is right when there's more money at stake. So to me, it was like, okay, look, let's cap this now so that this doesn't ever become a problem. Because when I review something and say it is good, I want people to believe that I'm actually saying it's good because I think it's good, not because I could make more money from it.
Yep.
And so that's why it's capped. I don't think everyone needs to do that. It's America, do whatever you want. But for me to feel better and sleep better at night, that's why I personally capped it. And so the article just goes on to explain like, hey, look, there is a lot of trust in these reviewers because it's like you build this audience. They have a lot of trust for what you're saying. You've given them good information. So then as that trust is built, if these commissions keep going up, up, and up, and the trust is high, well, now that person can basically push a paddle with a higher commission and make more because there's inherent trust built in. So that's kind of what it explores. Again, if you want the whole picture, you can read it down below. It's a very short read. It'll probably take you like 3 minutes.
I can understand that thought process, but like in actual real world, like how that would play out would just be so unbelievably risky. You spend all this time, effort, and like just investment into building an audience and a brand, and then doing something so risky that could absolutely topple that over very quickly.
But I think to me, like the way I read the article and I think about it is less about, hey, I'm just going to make up numbers here. These are not real numbers. I just want to be clear. Let's say the metal bone was like, hey, here's 50% commissions. I don't think the article is suggesting that someone would go, hey, this really crappy paddle is now thebomb.com. It would be more like, okay, paddle 1 gives me 15%, paddle 2 gives me 25%. Let me put the 25% one in the number 1 slot, and maybe I'll put like a 10% one in the number 4 slot.
Yeah.
So it's like not inherently lying or inherently I'm pushing a bad paddle. It's like, well, I could just put this one a little bit higher. I think that's kind of what the article is exploring, which I think is like a valid and reasonable take, right? Like I think that's a thing that could absolutely happen.
For sure.
Let me go through my notes here. I think I had even more on this because, again, I agree with it. I don't think I'll get to what I disagree with at the end. But I guess the next thing I just wanted to talk about was like, I think it's also important to realize too, like people will say, oh man, like you just can't trust any reviewer because if there's any commission at stake, you just can't trust them. And maybe to some extent that's true, right? Like if there is money on the line, is it 100% unbiased? I like to think for ours that it is, but I understand why people would look at it and go, oh, like anytime there's money involved, like look at other industries. I'm this way with other industries. I'll like start looking at something like one of the best examples when I was researching mattresses. The mattress world is horribly riddled with like crazy affiliate links. Some pay crazy amounts. Like I went down this whole deep dive of just the mattress world and like how basically taking opinions from like any of the websites or that world is just like impossible. And like the people who are really deep, it's a whole, I'm not even going to get into all of it. It was a crazy world. Landing on a mattress was not easy. But like, I don't even know what the point I was trying to make with that was. Anyways, that whole world is crazy. But what I think is like interesting is that I don't think you can possibly have someone who earns zero money and pumps out content and quality at the rate that people want it to. Like this is more than a full-time job for me. Like these days I try and really cap my hours just for my own sanity so I don't lose my mind. But in the early days of Pickleball Studio, like before you were really in it, easily 80-hour work weeks to pump out these reviews. And like I just don't think you're ever going to find someone that goes, you know what? Let me find a way to review like 2 paddles a week or more, do a podcast, do all this other content, and let me just do it for free. I just don't think that'll exist, because if you were doing it for free, it means one of 2 things. You are independently wealthy. Yep. So, okay, maybe that person exists, but are they going to choose to put all their time into a pickleball review channel? And then 2, if you aren't independently wealthy, well, then you probably have to work a job, which means you can't put out as much content.
Yeah.
So my point in that is not to say like, oh, look at me, trust me, like I'm the best, everything is like fine.
It's just more for transparency.
It's more just to understand.
Transparency.
Yeah, transparency.
English
it's
is
more
hard.
to understand that, like, look, I don't think you're ever going to find a world where someone can put out all the reviews you want to see and they make no money.
It is a crazy amount of time and effort to produce the videos that we do at the level we want, right? Like, there's just so many moving parts of having to get, the paddles filmed, the specs and data,
play testing,
the time play testing,
grit testing.
the grit testing, the writing the script, coming up with your opinion, like the actual
editing,
gameplay, everything. It's just so much time. And to do more than just one, or even, one a week with a podcast, like you said, everything else we do, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Yeah. And again, this is not meant to be a boo-hoo, woe is me. Like, look, we love this job. We would not change it for anything. I'm not saying that, oh, it's so hard. Like, it's not that. It's more just to put it into context that it's like, look, it is a lot of work to do the thing. And on that same note of like, hey, look, should you just listen to one reviewer? I've said for a long time, you should not do that. One, find a reviewer that aligns with your play style, because that'll probably make it a lot easier to find a paddle. If it's something they really like, you'll probably really like it. I think a good reviewer does a good job at trying to say who the play styles are for regardless. But if you find someone that plays like you, then generally the paddles they like, you're probably going to like.
Yep.
And even then, so you should watch multiple reviewers, but then you should also talk to your friends if they have the paddle. You should look at Reddit and even like Facebook. Like, look at all these different places to gather the information. Like, if you're skeptical of reviewers, hey, look, there's incentive on the line. Well, then you should find normal people, which would be like Reddit and Facebook. Now, there are like ambassadors that exist there too, but generally speaking, I think you should never take one person just at face value and go, yep, they said it was good, so I'm just going to buy it. Do your own research, right? That's just the nature of it. Like, I don't think you can just go on Reddit and be like, oh, this one guy said it was great, let me go buy it. It's like, okay, he said it was great, let me watch a review. He said it's good, let me go talk to my friends, see what they thought, let me try it.
Yep.
You still have to do some homework, is kind of my point. You shouldn't just take one person for what they have to say. And the other thing I'll say is that pickleball, as much as people will go like, oh, like it's, all these reviewers are obviously so like corrupt, they're obviously so shills. I think what's funny is even when you say that, and I totally get why people are saying what they're saying. I'm not even saying it's invalid to say what they're saying, right? I don't think everything is perfect. But you and I, if you look at other industries, dude, some of these other industries are horrible.
One of the worst is the fitness industry.
Well, fitness is really bad. The camera industry is not great. And my wife is into just a lot of beauty related things, and she tells me about that industry. All of those industries are crazy. Like the camera review industry, first of all, if a camera comes out on launch day, you're pretty much guaranteed you cannot find a single review of a like quote unquote unbiased person, because every review that comes out on launch day is a paid for sponsored review.
Yeah.
Like when one of the DJI mic products came out, a couple months ago, I was like, I'm really interested in buying this. Every single review was, hey, this is sponsored. They paid me to make this review. And look, I still got good information from it. I could read through the lines and see what things were maybe being overstated and what information I needed. But it's like, oh my gosh, there is no like, it wasn't even commissions in that. It was just, hey, I got paid to make this review.
Yep.
Which is like, oh my, that's crazy.
That's how a lot, like you mentioned, mattresses, like that's how a lot of that is. Like you'll have YouTubers in other industries and they'll be like, this video is sponsored by Casper mattresses,
yeah.
right? And it's just completely unrelated to what they do.
Yeah.
And it's a full-blown minute-long Casper mattress ad. And it's like, okay, you clearly just got paid for this.
Yeah, right.
You can't actually believe any word they say.
Yeah. So I do think that while there's probably things in the pickleball industry that could absolutely be better, I am at least happy that it hasn't gone the way of some other industries, which is like, I mean, I'm sure any of you who know things about just influencer culture in other areas of the world, it is wild.
Yeah.
And I feel like pickleball is largely still in a pretty healthy state. Like okay, I'm not going to say guarantee, but with a high degree of certainty, say that commissions are not getting capped in other industries. And I'm sure some of the commissions in like the fitness world are bananas.
Oh, it's so bad. And then you see like just the Instagram code bot pushers, like it's so bad in those other industries. Way worse than pickleball. I mean, it's not great in pickleball.
Yeah.
But it's so much worse in other industries.
Yeah. So again, that doesn't mean pickleball shouldn't do better or try to do better. I'm very much on the side that I think things should be better, and I hope we continue in a healthy direction, right?
For sure.
And then I guess one of the last things I just wanted to say for the thing I disagreed with is like the article really uses this premise of, hey, look, 10% versus like a 40% commission. And it's like, okay, I've heard rumors that there are some people in pickleball who get upwards of a 40% commission. I have not really seen it myself, at least not frequently. So I feel like that comparison was a bit like overstated in the article. And then I went through like all my affiliate accounts that I could find, and I actually had to find the emails where I was asking people to lower my commission to remember exactly what all the rates were. So I went and counted. Of 28 paddle brands that I have codes with, I think I might have more than that, but there are just some brands that like Gamma, where it's like, okay, well, no one buys a Gamma paddle, so I didn't really check that one. But I counted 7 codes or 7 companies I know of do at least 20%. One company at 25%, one company at 30%, and then 11, 15%. Hang on, does this math here? Yeah, I think this is all maths. And then 8 were at 10%. So like you can very clearly see here that like the majority are 15% and below. And I found one at 30%. So I felt like the whole 40% thing just felt really overstated. Maybe it was more of like a, hey, look, I'm just getting my point across of like how big this difference could be, in which case, okay, fair argument, but that's not something I have seen as standard. And again, that's the knowledge I have. There could be ones like making more. I don't know, right? This is all, I can only speak on my behalf, but you guys can let us know in the comments if you even care. I feel like most of the time no one even cares. But I just think is an interesting article that was worth talking about. And it's something that, again, I've done it this way for a long time. And when I mentioned it in that Chasing 5-0 video, I actually had quite a few people text me and they're like, dude, I did not know you did this. Like, why do you not talk about this? And it just, I don't know. I feel like it would always come across wrong. And I'm even still worried that all of this is going to come across wrong, but hopefully it doesn't. The last thing that the article said that I just thought was a good thought was, pickleball is still a young sport. The norms we establish now around trust, disclosure, and transparency will shape how the entire ecosystem evolves. And those norms are necessary to protect the credibility that a significant part of the pickleball paddle market depends on. This isn't about calling out individuals or stopping people from making money. It's about aligning incentives with expectations. And I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah.
That whatever norm you establish now is probably what is going to keep going in the future. And that's why I'm very happy with largely pickleball paddle reviews on YouTube have gone in a pretty healthy direction where there's not been like, I feel at least like a lot of like lying or just slop like a lot of the other industries. So I'm hoping it keeps going that direction, but I do think there are things we probably need to protect and keep it going in a healthy direction. So I don't know, hopefully talking about this adds some healthy contribution to the topic, but that's what I wanted to say about it. So
yeah,
there you go.